Hey everybody, and welcome to this introductory video for Kettlebell Carnivore. Just figured I'd drop in and let you know who I am, what the channel is all about here. But basically, just documenting my journey through, I guess it started with kettlebells and progressed from there, but started in a very bad spot, and now I've progressively moved myself further and further away from where I was and just wanted to document that journey and help other people see that there's light at the end of the tunnel, really. So the beginning, well, if I go way back, I used to do a lot of physical activity. I used to mountain bike race. I commuted about 500 something kilometers a month on my bike back and forth to work, working at a bike shop. Met my wife mountain biking. Always enjoyed cross country skiing, snowshoeing, paddling, all that sort of stuff. Come from a family that does a lot of walking. I'm half Scottish, and that side of the family is big into walking. But anyway, uh, yeah, stayed pretty active. Ate what I thought was pretty okay, but not really. Things got progressively worse as I got older. A lot of fast food, junk food, chips, pop, that sort of thing. But started to catch up with me. So a little over maybe 2 years ago now, I ended up getting quite stressed out at work, and that's happened off and on over the years, but just figure that's normal. But my last job was very high stress, high risk, high demand. It's basically a field instructor and a wildlife monitor for an outfit up here in the Northwest Territories in Canada. I was teaching 45, something like that, 44, 45 different courses, everything from firearms, wildlife courses, first aid, emergency response, that sort of thing, industrial courses, commercial stuff, you name it. And it was a lot of travel. I'd say sometimes it was up to half the time I was away from work flying around, and nothing goes smooth up here. I mean, part of the charm, but at the same time, logistics is a nightmare. Long story short, I was not in a good place mentally. I was comfort eating, all that sort of stuff. Uh, my management had even noticed that I was having issues and at one point suggested I hand in my resignation, which is kind of crappy. But at the same time, they said, "Oh, you're surprised if you made it that far with you because usually people don't last that long." So take that for what it's worth. Anyways, I ended up in the hospital. I was at church one day, and here I was teaching first aid courses like wilderness first aid and standard first aid and everything. I'm like, "Oh, I've got all the classic signs and symptoms of heart attack here." And told my wife, I'm like, "You need to drive me to the ER." So she rushes me over. They had me for a whole day over there and ran through everything twice just to double check things and said, "Yep, we're pretty sure you didn't have a heart attack at all, but something's up with the stress levels and everything." And ended up doing a stress test after that. And yeah, doc was like, "Well, there's nothing wrong with your heart, but yeah, you're carrying a few extra pounds," was the way he put it. And I'm about, what, 5'9", and I was 201 pounds at the time. To put it into relation, when I met my wife about 12 or 13 years ago, I would have been, I think, 165, 170 pounds around there when I was mountain bike racing still. Not getting much sleep. Sleep apnea was an issue, according to my wife. They wanted to put me in a sleep test. I never got around to that at the time, but that since has improved, thankfully. But yeah, at that moment, I was just like, you know what? Can't live like this anymore. So my manager, who suggested I go, who also I think might have had some issues with the job, but he was a kettlebell instructor and said, "Tell you what, I'm going to send you a book and a kettlebell." And he sent me that for Christmas. So I had a 35-pound kettlebell, or 16 kilogram, and Pavel's book, Simple and Sinister, which is what I've been following ever since for the most part now. Anyways, I got started with that. And that day too, I'm like, no more junk food, no more garbage. I was going to McDonald's and Starbucks like 2 or 3 times a day sometimes. I would sit down and eat like 6 fillet of fish, no problem, just destroy them. Always eating garbage, carbs like mad, and comfort eating. Like, I was not doing good. I hated everything, couldn't sleep between stress and sleep apnea and snoring and everything. And being in hotels all the time away from home and trying to sleep when it's like 45 degrees Celsius because the room's got broken heat or something, and it was not fun. So anyways, yeah, quit all that stuff, put my resignation in. I couldn't get stress leave because I don't have a family doctor up here in northern Canada, and walk-ins apparently can't do it. But whatever, I get looked after either way. It's not like I'm going to put all my trust just in the system. So yeah, March 15th last year, I started kettlebells and intermittent fasting. And initially, I was doing just OMAD, 1 meal a day. Gave up fast food, gave up sugar, gave up processed food, anything that came out of a box or a can or anything. That was it. So I basically bought whole food. And I started to drop the weight pretty quick. And after a while, I also noticed that, yeah, I was sleeping better. I made a priority to look after sleep hygiene as well. So it's like bedtime, I'm going to bed if it's 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then make sure I get up at the same time every day, which is 6 o'clock, or at least I set my alarm for 6. Carnivore did some interesting stuff to that we'll touch on in a bit. Yeah, so I started shedding the weight pretty quick. So that was March 15th, and it's funny, I even ended up talking to a counselor for a while. And like when I was a kid, it's like, well, that was something that you didn't do, and if you did, you didn't talk about it, which probably isn't the best way of dealing with things. But anyways, went over and was chatting with the fellow there, and he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I told him what I always did want to do, and he's like, go back to school. And here I'm going to be 40 this summer, and thought, well, I'm not getting any younger, and I've always wanted to do it. Why not? So I applied, and I got in the program. I'm taking an environmental, well, we just call it Environment and Natural Resources Technology program, but you can use it for a lot of different things. My hope is to be a renewable resource officer up here, which would be like a conservation officer down south. But yeah, something I actually want to do, have interest in. I've got a lot of interesting experience in my background that will help towards that as well. So yeah, got into school. I cleaned up my act. I started cross country skiing a lot more again. So since I was off work and it was prime ski time in Yellowknife at March into April, so I was banging out like 10-kilometer days, which doesn't sound like much now, but and the course is quite hilly, the one I used to use most of the time. But the weight definitely started to drop off. I started to sleep better. And I also had, it's funny, like I used to look like a werewolf. I had gnarly teeth. I ended up getting Invisalign, which might have been for vanity, but really I was tired of biting my own lip all the time. Like I'd be eating supper and then it'd be bleeding. I'm like, I'm going to get a pair of pliers pretty soon. The wife was like, nope, go get it pulled out, or not pulled out, go get it straightened out. So I think that might have actually helped with the sleep apnea and snoring a bit. But as soon as I started dropping the weight, I started to feel much, much better. So we get to August of last year and get ready to go away to camp. First year of school, you go to camp for 3 weeks out in the bush and do a 4-day canoe trip that's 85 kilometers and all kinds of other fun stuff. It's 21 days straight with no days off, basically, but it's all fun stuff. You do all kinds of different things with botany and forestry and everything. So anyways, crushed it. I'm like the second oldest guy there. Now I'm the oldest guy in the program, but at the time, second oldest. And just like, no problem. So couldn't bring my kettlebell, almost did, and then it didn't make it on the bush plane out there. So I ended up using a bunch of rocks on the beach for exercising and got into calisthenics a little more. But yeah, it just felt like way better. It was 160 pounds by the time August came around. And yeah, no more sleep apnea. And I thought I was doing pretty good. And I started hearing about this carnivore diet. So Dr. Peterson, who I follow on social media, if you're into carnivore, you probably know about him. If not, definitely look him up. But he found out about it through his daughter, Michaela, who had a lot of autoimmune issues and straightened that all out with carnivore. And then that led to Dr. Barry, Dr. Baker, a few other ones that are on there. So, anyways, yeah, it started, this little bug got in my head like, what's this carnivore all about? And I thought I was eating pretty good. And yeah, started upping my protein a bit more, going a little more animal based. And then I was like, you know what? Just jump in and do it. So, my last day before carnivore, my wife came down here to where I'm going to school. She kind of goes back and forth part-time, lives in our house in Yellowknife and then down here in Fort Smith. But we went out for Valentine's Day dinner at a local restaurant that I really enjoy here. And I was like, yeah, that's the last bit of carbs and starch or anything before I go carnivore. And then went strict carnivore. And I heard the horror stories, but I didn't have a very hard transition. And I think doing intermittent fasting and doing one meal a day for pretty much a year straight almost, other than 3 weeks at camp that put 8 pounds on. But yeah, I didn't have a lot of the negative stuff. And as far as like the digestive issues, I might have had to run to the restroom pretty quick 4 times in the first maybe week or two. And other than that, I've been good. So yeah, I think my body's been used to burning fat for a while now, which kind of helps. Which I don't know, I might even recommend going like if you're going to try intermittent fasting and then carnivore, it might not be a bad plan. It worked for me at least, but I'm not here to make recommendations, just kind of telling how things worked for me. So long story short, I get on carnivore now, and it's funny the benefits that have come out just in the short time I've been on it. So today is March 25th. So that's what, a month and a week, 5 weeks, maybe somewhere around there. And my pants are still fitting looser than they were. So I went from a size 36 pant this time last year, and now I'm a 29. And my brand new 29s I just bought a couple of weeks ago, they're not baggy, but I gotta cinch the belt up a bit. I'm like, oh man, this is I've never been like this at all in my life. Like I've always had a belly. This is gonna sound terrible, but they used to call me TITS when I was younger. I'm not gonna say it in case the YouTube picks it up and does anything to my channel here, but you know where I'm going. And now, like, that's meat. Strange. And there's times I catch myself looking in the mirror, I'm like, who is this guy? Like, not used to that at all. But yeah, just different things. I've had a tendon here that's been bothering me ever since I stepped up to a 32 kilogram kettlebell, but it also coincides with some shadow boxing that I actually connected on a piece of metal accidentally. So that was bothering me since Christmas. So that's what, 3 months now, almost. It's feeling much, much better now since I started carnivore. My teeth aren't sensitive anymore. I've had sensitive teeth my whole entire adult life to the point that it just about drove me nuts. And then it got even worse where I had receding gums. I did start taking a lot better care of my teeth. I never even had a cavity until I was 38, 37, 38. So I've got a couple of fillings now, but nothing crazy. But my gums were receding and the pain and inflammation around my gums was horrible. Get on carnivore. I was brushing my teeth. It used to be excruciating brushing my teeth, even with electric toothbrush with almost no pressure. And I just, maybe it was a couple of weeks ago, was brushing my teeth and like, my teeth don't hurt anymore. Like, what's going on here? This is strange. And they feel way cleaner all the time. They don't have that fuzzy feeling. My breath is fantastic. It was, when I was on the carbs, it wasn't great. Even though I was staying on top of hygiene, we'll say, as best as I could, flossing 3 times a day, brushing 3 times a day right after eating, mouthwash, which I don't use anymore. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. So there's that. Better sleep. Now, I will say the first couple of weeks or so that I was on carnivore, and I didn't know what the term was until I watched another video. I don't remember if it was Michaela or if it was Steak and Butter Gal. But basically, I had nightmares about carbs. And it's fun. It was always paired up. So it would be about me falling off the wagon. I'd be at a restaurant somewhere and there'd be all these snacks and treats and stuff and I'd eat it. And it was always involving the mafia as well. Like, I don't know if I was in the mafia or around them, but it's like you're with the mob and there's all this food and then you eat it and you feel like you wrecked everything. And I'd wake up in the morning and be like, oh, it was just a dream. Like I thought just wrecked it, maybe, I guess we'll say. And that was and I didn't have cravings, but I was having the dreams. And then after a couple of weeks, it's been pretty much it, other than one more somewhat recently. And I know I just kind of laugh at it now, but it's just very strange. I never had dreams like that before. And to the point that I am sleeping hard all night, having wicked dreams, like vivid dreams, lucid dreams. And then every single day, like my alarm on my watch is set for 6 a.m. and then my phone goes off at 6 a.m. as well. And the phone's away from the bed now that I'm trying to take care of my sleep better. And I wake up at like 5:30 to quarter to 6 every day. And it's not like, I gotta go to bed. It's like, boom, I'm up, turn the alarm off on the watch, get out of bed, grab the phone, turn off the alarm before that even comes on, and I'm up. Get up, come downstairs here, do my kettlebells. I should be doing my stretches in the morning as well, but with school and everything, it's like, well, I'll do those at night. But I do about 45 minutes of kettlebells in the morning with my warm up and then my routine and everything. I make breakfast, fry up a bunch of meat. So usually I'll have, I don't know, maybe half a pound to a pound of loose hamburger. I don't weigh any of it. I just get a portion, maybe that big around and that thick. Good sized portion of hamburger, probably about 4, maybe 5 pieces of bacon, 4 eggs for breakfast. I got time to have a shower and shave and everything and relax. I walk to school, do a couple classes, walk home for lunch, fry up a few more eggs and bacon, walk back to school, walk back here for supper. And I usually start supper as soon as I get home. I'm done school at 3:45 in the afternoon. So I still like to keep that eating window a little tighter. Maybe that's an old part of fasting that's still at play. But it's another thing. My appetite has gone boom since I started Carnivore. And I used to watch a lot of Thomas DeLauria videos, and I don't know, he's big on the data and the research, so it changes often. But I found I was having probably hypoglycemia, I'm guessing. But yeah, if I was eating one meal a day and it was the evening meal with supper, there was times, I'm pretty sure I had POTS too. Like I'd be kneeling on the ground, especially if I was kneeling tight enough, I was cutting off blood flow to my legs and then go to get up and all that acidic blood comes back in the system. And was not good. I felt like I was going to pass out a few times. Another thing, panic attacks. I used to get wicked panic attacks, like from probably the time I was in my mid to late 20s, somewhere around there, probably mid 20s. And at first I was having a heart attack. I'm like, well, this is it. Aaron's done. Hopefully somebody looks after my cat. And yeah, my brother was in nursing school at the time, and he's like, go get checked out. And I go in there like, we're pretty sure you're having panic attacks. I'm like, what? Like, I don't get those. There must be something wrong with me if I'm getting those, right? Like, no one wants to admit that, at least not back then. But it's interesting. So even after all the fasting and losing all the weight, I would start having wicked panic attacks in class to the point I'm like, oh man, I feel like I'm going to pass out and my chest is going. I'm like trying not to get noticed, but I'm checking my pulse, like, how are things doing here? And then within about, and it's going to sound crazy, but within about 2 to 3 minutes after I'd start having a panic attack, wicked gas, like worst gas ever. I'm like, oh, okay. So for whatever reason, I didn't know much at the time, but apparently gas and digestive issues can be quite related. It makes sense, like your vagus nerve and everything down there. And yeah, I used to get bubble guts quite bad from different things, even eating clean, what I thought at the time. To the point I even text my wife like, man, I could probably use some prayers right now. I'm having a pretty wicked panic attack. And then 3 minutes later, I'll text her like, gas. She's like, that's so strange, but it is what it is. And anxiety and depression runs in the family a bit too, which was another thing. When I was at my low with the stress at the job and the poor diet and everything, I'm not a doctor that can diagnose that stuff, but I would dare say I was quite severely depressed, angry, like wicked anger, and my fuse was about that long. Like I said, I'm half Scottish, so that doesn't help, but even shorter fuse than one could explain with that, we'll say. And then get on Carnivore, no more intestinal issues or anything like that. So like my gut feels good, but my head feels good. Like I would say I'm not gonna say that my panic attacks are completely gone. And it's only been like 5 weeks that I've been on it, but I'd say 95% improved. I will definitely take that for now, but hopefully it gets completely, and when it does show up, I think I've had 1, maybe 2 episodes in 5 weeks. it's just like nothing. It's just like, oh, yeah, I guess that was one. Like, way better, thankfully. But my mood is like up here and it stays there. I mean, I still get mad maybe about stuff and it doesn't affect me like it used to, thankfully, but even keeled. That would be a good way to put it. Even keeled, able to take stuff a little better. Cognitive ability is good. I'm awake all day at school. My marks are quite good, which I'm not trying to brag about, but I feel like if your body's in good shape and your mind's in good shape, things just jive, which is good. Get assignments done ahead of time and hand it in so I don't have to worry about them. Don't like the thought of procrastinating, but I've got the energy. I don't need to procrastinate or anything like that. And before I'd be like dragging my heels and stuff. It's just, it's a crazy thing to think that just what I'm eating, or more accurately, what I'm not eating anymore, has made such a difference. Oh, it's nuts. Even athletic performance. So, well, today's Saturday, so it was a week ago today. It would have been on March 18th on the calendar over there. I did my first 50-kilometer cross country ski race. And let me tell you, I did not train for that. I ski a fair bit. I probably do, I don't know, 80 to 100 and so maybe 120 kilometers a month if I've got time and the weather and the conditions are good and the snow's good. You think it'd be perfect up here in the Northwest Territories, but half the winter you don't have enough snow. Half of that time is too cold if you did, and then we've got spring, and then you're into 24-hour sunlight again almost. But yeah, I did it, and I didn't do too bad. I was keeping a pace of about maybe 8 kilometers an hour average speed for the first, I don't know, 35 kilometers maybe, and then ended up obviously dropping down a bit, but I finished it, and I didn't finish it last. It took me 7 hours and 35 minutes to do the 50K, but there's no way I would have even contemplated doing that last year. Like, not at all. But yeah, recovery, like, yeah, definitely had the DOMs for a while in my legs, but recovery's been pretty good post carnivore. So I've got another allotment coming up here actually this weekend in Yellowknife. It's only 25 kilometers. And this thing, I'll go bang out 25 kilometers on my own time just for fun now. Like, no problem. Wife and I have done a allotment together down here in Fort Smith. And when we finished it, she wasn't on carnivore yet at that point in time. She just was dabbling. I think it was within that week. She kind of was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. And now she's doing it, thankfully. But yeah, we finished it. She was done. Like, I'm pretty sure that was all she had in her. And I was like, I still have gas in the tank. Like, I'm doing pretty good here. It's crazy. Skin problems, even, like, kind of an awkward segue. But yeah, I just noticed in the video, it's like, yeah, I got a razor bump here. That's next step is going to be actually getting into safety razors instead of these disposable things. But anyways, skin problems. Like, I don't know if I had eczema or some sort of fungal thing or what, but like always had all this dry, flaky, scabby skin in my eyebrows and around the sides of my nose and my lip. I might even take the mustache off now. We'll see. But that doesn't seem near as bad. Yeah, no odor. I haven't used deodorant in a few days now, and I just smell like, what's that stuff I've been using? Irish Spring. My pillows, here's a strange thing. My pillows and my sheets used to turn yellow. Like, even after just a few days, I can shower before I go to bed, and it still happened. And now, like, I don't know, maybe my body's just not getting rid of all that stuff that was in there, but I dropped everything, like even tea and coffee. And I was on decaf because my anxiety, I could not handle anything with caffeine in it. Coffee, tea, chocolate, energy drinks, nothing like that. I would just vibrate. Yeah, no, if this is only 5 weeks in and this is how things are so far, man, like, I wish I knew about this a long time ago. I said that a lot, even about with the intermittent fasting and eating properly. And I guess I probably wouldn't have to fast too much if you'd stayed on top of things to start with. But I don't see the fasting as a sustainable long-term thing for me daily. but I'm at a point where I didn't really need it as much anyways to maintain the weight, but as far as maintaining the health. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure my metabolism got used to less and less calories and just could make do. I was probably eating, I don't know, when I worked it out, somewhere like 1,600 to 1,800 calories a day. And then when I started carnivore, it's like, oh, I'm going to eat 2 meals a day. And then, well, Delorier says your first meal should actually be earlier in the day based on circadian rhythms and genes switching off and on and blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, I'm going to start having breakfast. And man, I eat till I'm full 3 times a day. And I'm still, I'm not losing too much weight. Although after that ski race, I went from 150, 152, usually around there. 2 days after, I wrote it on the calendar here because I track all that stuff. I was 143 pounds and I was not dehydrated. And during the event, 50 kilometers, I ate 2 or 3 butter bombs that I made, like brown butter bombs. And 1, 2, 4, maybe 5 pieces of bacon. Other than that, I think it was body fat. I got home from the race and like I'm pretty slim and trim now, but there was skin hanging off my belly. I'm like, I was eating myself. But that's what it's made for, I guess. It seems to be like my body can burn that stuff no problem, and you don't have maybe the same explosive energy initially, but endurance wise, like it's just, yeah, just go for days type thing. It feels like now compared to before. So that's probably about, the gist of it, we'll say, as far as an introduction for the channel. And I'm looking here and it says it's 26 minutes long already. That's crazy. If you enjoyed that, hopefully stick around and subscribe and hang out. It's not usually going to be this boring. I might start doing a format where the algorithm might not like it as much. If you want to watch it, you're going to watch it. If you don't, YouTube doesn't need to push something on somebody that doesn't want to see it. But I'm thinking more shorter format, little updates, things that I notice in my journey. I don't think I'm going to be reintroducing too much in my diet, honestly. So speaking of my diet, what do I eat? Beef. So that could be steaks, roasts, ribs, hamburger, all that sort of stuff. Bacon. I was doing a bit of other pork cuts. I ate a lot of pork chops growing up, and I think I had my fill, but they don't seem to really float my boat that much. But bacon, so far I'm sticking with that. Eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. Like I say, I probably eat about 8 or 10 a day at least, around there. Some days I may eat a whole dozen. I definitely buy them in bulk now. Water. I had a hard time eating water as a kid, or drinking, I should say. But the old man used to buy us a lot of pop, and then we were at Mom's house. We'd be eating like, what is it, that from concentrate stuff that's frozen that you dump in and mix up. And at the old man's place, same thing. It'd be like juice crystals and powders and stuff. Like just wrecking yourself with it. But I had no taste at all for water. Like even if I was super dehydrated in the summertime and needed it, I was out biking and doing stuff, I'm like, oh, I can't put water in my mouth. I just gag with it. Not now. Now, like I'm in the shower and I get a bit of water on my lip. I'm no, better not drink it because it's coming out of the water heater. But like, just regular water, sparkling mineral water, I definitely enjoy that. We have a soda stream back at our house. So here in town where I'm going to school, I just buy canned stuff, mineral water. And hot water. As I was saying, yeah, hot water. I have a mug or two of that. I try not to drink too much water around my meal anymore. So get all that fat and stuff in there. Keep my stomach nice and acidic so that it'll work properly and digest. And then maybe an hour or two after that, I'll have something to drink. And through the day, I'll drink. I try not to drink too much. I think I was also watering myself down, no pun intended, and diluting my electrolytes a bit, which might have also been causing heart palpitations and anxiety and stuff like that. So, but I don't get cramps or anything now. I'm doing pretty good there. I salt to taste. That's it. I got rid of everything else in my house pretty much. There's a couple of condiments left that I'm going to be probably giving to my classmates or taking. We've got a food bank at school, so they can make use of it. Not even a food bank, like they do lunches and stuff, so they can make use of it. I almost feel bad giving people what I think is poison now, basically. I used to eat like a lot of oats. I used to make a bit of bannock, but I haven't done that in a while, even before carnivore, obviously. But yeah, it's not even in my house anymore. The stuff's all gone, and I got a fridge full of meat and eggs. I got a salt shaker and a big bag of salt that I'm going through quicker than I was thinking. And that's about it. Probably drink 4 to 5 cans of sparkling water a day, sometimes less, and probably half a liter to a liter of hot water a day, maybe a little more. That's what it is. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Hopefully you'll see lots of videos, different workouts. I've got some ideas for some kettlebell stuff to switch things up a little bit here. So stay tuned for that. I've got a really cool idea here for the summertime. I don't know if anyone that watches this follows Levi Stark or not, but yeah, him and his partner Angie run I guess you call it a gym or personal fitness setup over in Switzerland. And he had, what do you call it, Russian biathlon. And then something clicked in my head. I was like, wait a minute, I actually like shooting for real. Why don't I do kettlebell biathlon? So stay tuned for that. I'm gonna wait till it's nice out for I can lay prone and sit and kneel and everything without getting soaking wet laying in the snow. Yeah, different ideas. So yeah, it's a bit of a long-winded one, but thanks for sticking around if you made it all the way to the end. If you want to see more content, then definitely not as long as this usually, unless it's something earth-shattering, but some workout routines, different things I do for fitness, different recipes, maybe some shopping trips, lifestyle, you name it. Just as I go through this carnivore journey and kind of document it as I go and network with other folks. So thanks a lot, and hopefully we'll see you around.